So, how does a company go from nearly selling itself for pocket change to, well, to becoming Netflix? The secret isn't just about the technology. It's about a radical and honestly pretty controversial corporate culture. Today, we're going to break down the no rules rules philosophy that turned Netflix into a global giant.
Okay, let's just take a second to really look at this timeline. Picture it, the year 2000. A tiny, struggling startup called Netflix basically begs the king, Blockbuster, to buy them for $50 million. Blockbuster pretty much laughed them out of the room. Just 10 years later, Blockbuster is filing for bankruptcy. This isn't just a story about DVDs versus streaming. It's a corporate David and Goliath story.
So what happened? It's easy to just say streaming won, but it's way deeper than that. Blockbuster had everything. All the money, thousands of stores, millions of customers. The real difference, the thing that Netflix was building in secret, wasn't a better algorithm. It was a completely different kind of company culture. One built to change, not just to protect what they already had. So, how do you actually build a culture that can take down a giant like that? Well, according to Netflix, it really boils down to three big, interconnected, and pretty radical ideas. Let's dig into what they are.
First up is the foundation of everything else, building talent density. And right away, they throw a common idea out the window. Forget the whole we are family thing. In a family, you have to love everyone, even if they aren't great at their job. Netflix says, no, think of us like a pro sports team. Every single person on the field has to be a star player because we're here to win a championship. And you know what's crazy? They figured this out completely by accident during a huge crisis.
So it's 2001, the dot-com bubble bursts, and Netflix has to lay off a third of its employees. It was brutal. Everyone expected the people who were left to be miserable, for morale to just completely crater. But the exact opposite happened. The office suddenly had this buzz. The energy was incredible. Turns out, by letting go of the people who were just adequate, the remaining star performers felt surrounded by greatness, and performance went through the roof.
And this isn't just a gut feeling, there's real data behind this. Research shows that adding just one bad apple, and that could be a slacker or even just a brilliant jerk, can sink a high-performing team's output by a massive 30 to 40%. It's just a drain on everyone's energy and motivation, and it usually makes your best people start to wonder why they're even trying so hard. Okay, so how do you keep this talent density so high? Netflix uses a really simple and, kind of ruthless tool. They call it the keeper test. Managers are supposed to constantly ask themselves this one question about each person on their team. If this person told me they were quitting for another job, would I fight to keep them? And if the honest answer is no, or even worse, I'd feel a little relieved. Then the policy is to give that person a generous severance package right then and there and open that spot up for a star.
Right, so you've built your all-star team. What's next? You have to get them to talk to each other honestly. And I mean really honestly. That's pillar 2, radical candor. At Netflix, not giving critical feedback isn't seen as being nice. It's seen as being disloyal. The whole point is to cut through office politics and whispered complaints so the whole team can get better faster.
Just think about how powerful direct feedback is in real life. You know those electronic signs on the side of the road that flash your speed back at you? Well, just seeing that number, that direct real-time feedback, causes drivers to slow down by an average of 14%. The information was already there on their speedometer, but seeing it called out directly changes behavior, instantly. That's the goal of radical candor.
Now, this can't just be a free-for-all, right? It's not an excuse to be a jerk. So Netflix uses a simple framework called the 4 A's. When you're giving feedback, it has to aim to assist, not to hurt. And it has to be actionable, something they can actually do. Then, on the receiving end, your job is to appreciate it, to fight that urge to get defensive. But here's the most important part. You then get to accept or discard the feedback. It's your call. You're still in charge.
And this all leads us to the final and maybe the most mind-blowing pillar. See, when you have a team packed with superstars who all give each other honest feedback, something amazing happens. You don't need to control them anymore. You can get rid of all the dumb rules and processes, and you replace all that control with context. And this is where the no rules idea really kicks in. Get this, Netflix has no vacation policy. Zero. Take as much time as you need. They also have no formal expense policy. The entire policy is just 5 words. Act in Netflix's best interest. It's a huge signal of trust. The thinking is simple. If we hire you as a responsible adult, we're going to treat you like one. And that freedom, they believe, is what fuels real innovation.
So this is a totally different way of thinking about leadership. The traditional way, the Blockbuster way, is all about control. Decisions come from the top, there are rules for everything, the boss has to approve it all, and the main goal is just don't mess up. The Netflix way is about context. The leader's job is to be a coach, to make sure everyone understands the strategy, the context. That way, the informed captain on the front lines can make the big calls without having to ask for permission. The goal isn't to prevent errors, it's to encourage big bets.
And they have this great metaphor for how it works. A tree. Down at the roots, the CEO sets a super broad vision, like, go global. That context travels up the trunk to the leaders, who add more detail, like, our strategy is to risk big and learn big. That flows out to the branches, where managers get even more specific for their teams. And what that does is it empowers a single leaf, an employee, to make a multi-million-dollar decision, like greenlighting a new show, without needing a single approval meeting.
So when you put all these pieces together, the talent density, the radical candor, the context over control, what do you really have? Well, you have a company that operates less like a perfectly rehearsed orchestra and a lot more like a free-flowing jazz band.
Think about it, right? A traditional company is like a symphony orchestra. The boss is the conductor, telling everyone exactly what to do. Every musician has a specific sheet of music, and the goal is to play it perfectly, without a single mistake, flawless replication. But Netflix is a jazz band. The leader sets the rhythm, the basic tune, but then the individual musicians, who are all masters of their craft, they improvise, they listen to each other, they create something new, together, in the moment. The goal is creative magic.
So there it is. This is the whole loop, the engine of the reinvention. First, you get the absolute best players on the field. That's talent density. Second, you make sure they're all talking to each other with brutal honesty. That's radical candor. And finally, you give them the freedom and the context to go make amazing things happen. Each part fuels the next, creating a culture that is always learning, always adapting, always reinventing itself.
And that really leaves us all with one big question to think about. Look at your own team, your own company. Is it designed like a symphony, or the main goal is to prevent mistakes? Or is it set up more like a jazz band, where the goal is to create something new and innovative? Because in the world we live in today, the answer to that question might just be everything. Thanks for diving into this with me.